torque and nervous system, generally, right?
Uh-huh.
You're gonna fucking bury me there.
I'm gonna start because burying you. Can you put this on camera?
I just got it. I think
Okay,
that
cool,
part.
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna start straight at it. No, it'd be nice, but...
All right, well, I'll intro and then you bury me.
There you go.
So, well, welcome back this week, guys. We're up on the roof in Utrecht before the heat takes
New
over
shirt!
for the day. New
That
shirt.
one is cool. That's what I've been waiting for. We've been waiting for 3 months.
Yeah.
What is it with the t-shirt industry?
We've talked
No matter what country we go... Anyway.
Now, I do like, this is going to be...
This is what we should do. We should go in the t-shirt industry and just revolutionize
Just
the
kill
whole
it.
thing. Yeah!
The problem is there's no money in the t-shirt industry anyways.
That is true as well. So we'll do it as a side gig just for fun.
It's like a human service.
Yes, exactly.
And that's funny, though, with those shirts, because we always got the white in the middle with the other arms, and very common, that's what you see with the baseball t-shirts. If you're a guy who's a little big in the midsection, you want the black in the middle and you want the lighter colors outside because the muscles look bigger and the waist looks small. You go the other way around, you make my arms look small.
You have to be super broad
and my
to be
belly
able to
look
pull
fat.
that one off. No, but I like that one. But guys, I did not get any smaller. It's just this is one side bigger than the other one.
Yeah.
So of course, so that's an XL, which I think I'm 106 kilos right now. So you would think this size is pretty big. So I was like, all right, I'll put an L. But no, because the L is the one size we don't have.
Really?
Yeah, because they back ordered.
Oh, Jesus
So we need another month to get the L. I'm like, guys, this started in May
At least.
or some shit like that. Yeah.
Well, we're on a roll.
Maybe even April. I don't know. Like I asked Carla to take care of it. By now I'm like, I just don't care anymore. No, probably probably before May. So it's probably April, if not before that.
So these are available in the European store, right?
Yeah.
Only?
Yeah, but no size L.
No, that's not. Well, probably. By the time they get these ones will be available. But check on sizes.
One can hope.
Yeah.
One can hope.
We had a bit on our Massonomics podcast one time because we had ordered a few barbells that we were pretty excited to get, really nice ones.
Yeah.
And so we were every week on the podcast. We thought they were coming the next week until it became like a 12-week ordeal. It was like the longest fucking running joke. It's like,
12 episodes later, we still don't have.
So, before we started, I asked Julian what we were going into, and we had a plan.
We have a plan.
Here's what happens. Julian has a plan.
That's a wasp.
I just killed it with my hand.
Oh, good, because I thought you got stung. It's coming back with a vengeance if you didn't, I'm just saying. So if you see jumping or hear scream on a podcast,
I don't do outdoors.
The bitch got back to Tyler.
Yeah, I don't
exactly.
do outdoors.
Yeah, you're the one who chose, man.
So today.
Right. Okay, so we're going to go at, so that's going to be our basic one. So we're going to go at, the torque chains, IT versus ET, so internal torque versus external torque, and go a little bit as to how it started and why it got into, when I say parasympathetic versus sympathetic, which is a kind of an oversimplification, but I had, it is like you have to be able to use words to go into it.
Yeah.
Before we go into that, I have we're going to do another book review about 2 books soon. There's more than 2 books, but interestingly enough, there's one book I was reading yesterday on the plane. It took me like 2 days to read it, but it's called The Explorer of the Invisible.
Okay.
It's by a French guy named Jean Stone, but that was very interesting on a level I'm going to talk about right now. It's a lot like the Demon in the Machine, right? It's a book designed to explain that they both say the same. I didn't say basically. That's a victory because I thought about it, but I didn't. Materialism is dead.
Yeah.
That is the fundamental things we're getting to. Materialism is dead. Determinism, all that stuff, it has to go away. The idea that, like a table is composed of smaller parts that are composed of smaller parts, everything is hardware, done.
Yeah.
I mean, the world is simple and then we move forward. That is coming to a screeching halt, at least at a certain level of the scientific and academic world.
Like on an academic and scientific level, that's becoming...
To a very, only, yes, but at a very high level in the sense of only the people that are foxes, in the sense of they go dig for rabbit holes, starts to get it. So it's developing more and more. And so far, the best book was Demon in the Machine. Believe it or not, as thorough as he is into his stuff, at least he's presenting the evidence, right? But by the way, I find it in a way very funny that people, log in to hear a bit American dude and a big but somewhat smaller French dude talk about movement, and they end up, guys, at the forefront of the thinking process of where the world is going to. I find that funny. I don't think any of them realize it anyway, but you'll see. 10, 15 years from now, you'll go, wait, I heard that one before. Yeah, was from here. Thank you. I'm a lot smarter than you think. So it was very interesting. So the Demon in the Machine, all that stuff, is all pointing toward in the same direction, which is the software, which is a higher level of complexity. So if you want, materialism is not wrong, but it's one dimension, if you want. And then there seems to be a one past that. I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by this. And so I found that very interesting. So the whole book, I'm reading it fast because I'm like, yeah, said it, up until the part where I got into mathematics, because that's something I didn't get into that much. Yeah. And then, but it points again, like, so remember, like the Demon Machine was quantum mechanics, biology, computer science, right? He goes, quantum mechanics, didn't go into biology, but goes into math and then a bunch of stuff in between, sociology, but they're all pointing in the same direction. None of the two got into Carl Friston, by the way.
At all.
And to neuroscience. You would think.
Yeah.
I found that. Is that because they don't understand him? Is that what's happening?
Maybe he's a super mean guy. I don't know.
Asperger, as fuck, and he's like, don't use my stuff.
Right.
No, because he's used. Maybe they don't know about him. I find the whole thing so confusing. That's just to give you an idea. The guy Jean Stone is French. He basically created what he said in English, interdisciplinary university in Paris.
There's what's interesting is you talk about how it's like they had left Friston off of these things, or no mention, or at the very least, we're not seeing any back force from Friston either into these things. Is that
I understand him?
True.
Yeah,
true.
but
I think like his work though is exclusively almost a definition of the software.
Yes,
you know,
it's neuroscience.
It's it. It's like this is the software, and the other ones are coming at you. Here's all the hardware, and here's why it's the software guiding it. But I just think that his pieces on what life requires from software is the piece that should be plugged in.
And to me, it's the most important one, is how the brain deals with all the shit.
Yeah.
Like, I find that so I'm puzzled.
Yeah.
There's no way they don't know about him. Or am I mistaken? Like, or no one truly understands what he says. I can't be the only one who grasped Schrödinger to...
I wonder, though, if maybe...
No, because Paul Davies did, but he didn't quote Friston.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe we are looking at it for a very specific lens, so we don't have to... we don't have to view all of Friston's work as an everything piece of work.
Yeah, but
we can pick it.
It seems what I've seen out of those books is and I'm starting to think it's a little bit what's happening, is one of the what the biggest bias that I see is cultural.
Okay.
Like, it's the Americans have that Ayn Rand objectivism bullshit in mind when they everything is meritocracy. But there's a fundamental problem when you say meritocracy. So what do I mean by that? For example, it's a calories in versus calories out debate.
Yeah.
Just if you eat less, you'll But so you saying that because we're losing the war. I'm going to go back to the book, but. We're losing that war, right? Like, I was on Joe Rogan podcast, there was a dude, I can't remember his name. The dude was saying, like, there's 100 million people that are either pre-diabetic or diabetic, right?
Yeah.
That have diabetes. It's $1,400 a month to treat diabetes, right? So you do the math, over a year, it'd be $1.5 trillion a year on diabetes alone, coming up.
Yeah.
So in 5 years, you're talking over $1 trillion on diabetes alone. And I'm like, guys, like, you wonder how empires fall? Like that. That's the shit that brings down empires. I'm not kidding. I remember the movie from Mel Gibson about the Mayas or the Incas, I can't remember. Apocalypto.
Yep.
That was a great movie, right?
Yeah.
What brought down that empire was the diseases, because they didn't have sewers and shit like that. So the cities got so big, they started to, everybody was getting
coalesced
sick.
Into one place.
Exactly, so not enough farmers.
It's not a big deal if you shit in a hole, if it's the three of us in a hut. But if there's 100,000 people shitting in the same hole,
you know what this
water,
is? This is chaos theory.
Yeah.
Remember Jurassic Park?
I mean, probably.
Oh, you've seen Jurassic Park?
I've seen all of them. I've seen all of them, but I don't revisit them all that often. Come on.
But you remember, chaos theory in mathematical, like when he says, if you read the book's actually pretty good. Yeah. And the guy was like, look, I can't tell you when the park is going to crumble, or where, but it will. I know that from chaos theory, because the second you introduce a butterfly, the complexity increases exponentially until I'm going to go into math for a second, but I know I'm burying you. But what's very interesting with math is the more variable you introduce, the more the bell curves flattens and then reverses.
Okay.
Like the more variables you put, the more the extremes come up.
Yeah.
So you go from what they call mediocristan to extremistan. Like mediocrity is everything is kind of the same. Yesterday is kind of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then the more variables you introduce, the more it starts to swing. So the bell curve actually starts to flatten.
Yeah.
And eventually even reverses until the whole thing fucking...
Until it's all extreme.
Well, but every time you introduce variables, it gets...
You got one.
Yep. It gets... it starts to go crazy anyway. So that was the thing about Jurassic Park, was like, you can't introduce that many variables without the shit coming up. So it was something with Apocalypto. It's like, 3 people is fine, but there's 100, then there's 1,000. The problem becomes exponentially bigger. It's the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
You know, like suddenly if you have enough butterflies, you can change the weather.
Yeah.
Because they exponentially go on top of each other. So you see that in Apocalypto, and you see that in the society you're in. But so the cultural bias, you see it in, for example, the food problem in the US, right? Where it's not, but to say it's just quantity, I'm like, are you saying people can't count? And that's what the problem is.
Yeah. That's a tough, that's a pretty tough accusation to make, considering that
all of them?
Everything, and that's the thing, is everything is also framed as just like a self-control issue.
Yes. Right, but that's like drugs. Remember the conversation we're having? It's exactly the same. It's like, just don't do it, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine in the movement industry where like you broke your back on a deadlift, I'd be like, you need to move better. Don't do that.
Yeah. It's like, I know.
Well, by the way, we had that, because I had actually conversation with guys saying, why are you saying internal torque? But really, like, I just people to just squat. What the fuck they need you for then?
Yeah.
And by the way, is it working to tell people to just squat? No. So can we move past those fucking oversimplistic
Well, and like that
solutions?
too, just like that. Eat less, we'll just squat. That's going to work for the people that works for. And there's going to be a lot of people that's going to leave behind.
But how many?
Yeah.
How many? Seriously.
Not
many.
many.
You know, you have the top athletes, and even them, they didn't just squat.
No.
They spend 10 years looking for things. Like I remember David Tate saying, like, a good lifter will have 12 different idea of what his workout is going to be by the time he starts working out, because it didn't feel right. I gotta try this. So it doesn't work like that. So the whole thing, like, it's just carbs and insulin and calories in versus calories out. I'm like, really? So again, the problem is that people can't count. That's the problem. You don't think there's a why behind it. No, not everything is just software.
Yeah.
But that's a meritocracy. That's Ayn Rand. That's objectivism for you. It's like they want the world. I bet you take those guys and you go into their private life and you start pushing a little bit, and you will see someone who is somewhere along the line of the objectivism, where everything is meritocracy, where if you
get what you get,
the have because they deserve it. The have-nots don't have because they don't deserve it. And that's an American bias. That's an American cultural bias of, if you have, it's because you deserve it. But that goes back to that weird Puritanism of, like we're going back into the same foundation of, I have money, therefore it means God loves me. Mm-hmm. It's the haves versus the have-nots, which is very easy to develop in a society where slavery allows you to be the most powerful, the richest country in the world at the time.
Yeah.
If you're a rich white guy, I'm like, I totally agree. But that's the cultural bias that you see in the US, and that's where I get pissed about the Ayn Rand bullshit, like objectivism. It's like meritocracy. I'm like, okay, yes, life is a meritocracy, but that's why we're starting to see more and more. It's not nearly that simple as I have, therefore God loves me, or all that shit. Well, it depends how you define what is the meritocracy based on. And in the case of food, it's not calories in versus calories out. It's not that simple. No one wants to look fat. No one wants to be 500 pounds and not being able to go up a flight of stairs. Do you think those people look in the morning and go like, I don't mind looking like this as long as I have sugar? It's not that fucking simple, man.
Well, and I think we talk about that, you get the results from the inputs that you put in exclusively, right? And that's supposedly the way it rolls out in the end. The problem is that actually doesn't work on the human side of things. How much of food addiction, and behavior is based on feel, things that aren't measurable. Measure a fucking food craving to me. Tell me what, you know what I mean? What is that like? Yeah. So all of these things
why food cravings?
And all of these things are so subjective to the person that to remove that from it there isn't even anything to look at.
There's a book we're going to talk about that is a Black Swan by Nasib Taleb, which is fantastic. And the Black Swan, the idea, it was like for the longest time until Australia, they've seen 1 million white swans. There was none until they got to Australia. It's the only place where they have black swans. Right? But until then, swans are white. Empirical evidence tells you what?
All swans are white. Yeah.
Right? So, and then you get there, and then after the fact, you go, well, yeah, obviously, mutation. But so the black swans are always something that are rare, have humongous consequences in the sense of, you know, how much they rock you, and always obvious after the fact, but never before. Right? And that's the problem with empirical evidence. It never takes into account black swans. What's also very interesting is the idea that no one wants to acknowledge the black swan problems. Ever. So everything they can predict, but then something always happens.
Yeah.
Always. Einstein happened. Could you predict Einstein?
No.
Could you predict the relativity? No, that's the point. Those are the black swans. But everything in history is developed through black swans. Everything of importance is a black swan matter. Always. And the financial crisis. So you have a plan, you're going to invest in your house and Yeah, who just lost 60% of its value. Didn't prepare for that one, now did you? And so that's a cultural bias that we all have toward the black swans and everything. But you see that in the fitness industry so much with the empirical evidence where you go like, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But then you never account for the black swan, which is mostly what happens.
And that's the thing, is you're only measuring what you kind of already know, or at the very least what you can measure.
What you know.
Yeah.
And what you know cannot hurt you. The problem is that's what we're looking for.
Well, that's
the shit that can happen to you.
Well, and you're trying to learn things that you don't already know.
Right?
You know?
And you're trying to prepare for by the way, what is the definition of CrossFit? If not that. CrossFit is about trying to get at the black swan. Mm-hmm. Right? So we'll get into it as well. But for example, he was talking about this. It's like you want a 10% increase on efficiency. You hire 300 researchers, that's going to be a post for Instagram. You hire 300 researchers, you give them a year, and then you put them on a problem, right? Mm-hmm. A year, 2 years, enough money, you get 10% efficiency. You want 90% efficiency. You take 6 groups of 5. You give them 3 years, not 1 year, but 3 years, and you let them do their thing. 5 will fail. 1 will get you a 90% increase in efficiency on a product.
Yeah.
That's how you get the maximum stuff, because one of them will get to the black swan.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but that's CrossFit. CrossFit was, fuck it, we're going to try stuff in pockets, body weight, endurance, weights, everything together. Yeah. They created
heavy,
all those groups,
speed, jump,
and then they go, fuck it, let's see which one works. Some of the workout, some of the stuff, Grassham was like, no, that was a bad idea, we can't do that one. And then suddenly they popped up with ones here and there where you go, shit.
Well, and then you build a system that works. But what I like too in that case, with all the variables that go on in CrossFit, the different is that also it gives people an opportunity to find their thing in there.
Right, but so they increase of efficiency because they went, hey, that one worked, that one didn't.
Yeah, this is my thing. So this is the way I can train.
And when did CrossFit start to fuck up? When they started to go, they narrow it down, they go, that's CrossFit, it's keeping pull-ups and snatches, and then we're going to increase every year slowly. Yeah. And then the second you do that, you go back to 10, mediocre Christian, which means it's very slow. Like yesterday is kind of like today, and today is kind of like tomorrow, and we're going to increase slowly, except it never fucking works like that. So you see CrossFitters going back to programming like this, where actually they come from the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I had fucking OPEXO that keeps bashing CrossFit and saying like, we need to go tack, even though he comes from CrossFit. Yeah. He was the first fucking CrossFit gang. All his clients are CrossFitters. I mean, like the CrossFit showed that there's that fucking randomness, that epsilon and everything. That's the way to go forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it showed you the way, and then you decide you got a better way.
No, but then they start. I never understand people that bash the world they come from. That's like me bashing jiu-jitsu or strongman, saying there's a better way to do it. Yeah, but before Glassman...
But yeah, it's like, don't forget what this gave you.
No, but look at how Glassman gets successful. He threw in, again, it's the 5 groups at 6, he threw an idea out there, and then one of them just went with 90% efficiency. How was women's training before CrossFit? Because we forget that one too. Nothing like it, not even close. How do you get a massive jump? Is that a black swan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because looking back, you go like, well, yeah, women handle more volume anyway. Why did we program like that anyway? Like now looking back, you go like, shit, Oh, I'm not the only one. Good. Right. But so that's a major black swan. And yet, now what do? We take that black swan and we try to make it one step. We go back to what we did before. See the bias that we have toward black swans. Yeah. Even us knowing it's there, we still can't fucking do it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for training? That means that trying new shit that makes no sense here. So like they all blast me for something like, why would you try the pec stick? Because naturally, I'm a black swan.
Yeah.
Right? So that's all I look for is like, let's see what happened. Nope. Neoprene.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck would you do? Even my own mentoring program is like, even
you dropped
some of them.
You dropped all this on us in June too. It was like, hey guys, suit up. It's fucking June in the land of no air conditioning.
It's a black swan, which means it happens at any moment. But isn't that where the greatest stuff came from? Me for going like, let's try this. Yeah. And then, do they all work?
And the things that you pull out of just that specific thing now gives better context to everything else too. So just like, gives you a better understanding of the things even like we talked about with segue win right here with torque.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna
remember how I pulled that back to for a second. But like with all of that is now you have an even more comprehensive understanding of how you respond in certain situations physically.
But you needed the door to open.
Yeah.
And the door only opens to black swan. It does not open to white swans. So that whole empirical evidence stuff is such a human flaw. In that sense, like they all get stuck with like, well, can you prove it? Did you do the study? By definition, that study will only tell you what you know. And that will only tell you how to not progress. So you take the empirical evidence, what it shows, and then you throw it out the window. And then whatever is left, that's probably where we should go.
Yeah.
I swear. Like, look at Isaac Newton. All the greatest were all fucking black swans. Looking back, of course, it's obvious, but at the time, they went completely sideways to everybody.
And that's how I know too that it's a conversation I can't have with a person if they're done with a concept immediately. Like, like I was just saw a guy. I mean, you had talked to the other day about that Ben Pekulski, bodybuilder guy. It's a really good podcast out there. You should listen to it. Yeah. But they have. He had said something about how. Set up now to try like 12 weeks of this just carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Well, before that, he had done some keto stuff and some fasting stuff.
Like
lots of other things, and things get shifted around. But what it is people I know have seemed to have had results on this diet, but I don't know his understanding. It was like, from what I know, I don't think that maybe it's what I would, but he's like, I have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that for a bodybuilder. Yeah, I don't know that.
But but you know what you do? You just try it.
Fucking 12 weeks. If you don't have 20 weeks in your life, fuck you.
Like, just see what happens.
Give me a fucking break.
So that's the way it is. I don't know. I'm that way. You're that way. We're like, I don't know. Let's just try it. But there's a lot of the opposite of that.
No, but so the conversation, I'm going to start pushing more and more because they're all going to think that. Because that's where the guy, like one of the OPEX guy, like in Sweden, was starting to fight by StrongFit. So every revolution is ridiculous, then dangerous, then obvious. So I'm getting into the dangerous phase. So now basically their thing is, oh yeah, but you're just charismatic. Without you, there is nothing. And so what do they hide? They say, well, we hide behind science. No, you don't. Because all science tell you everything goes through black swans. Quantum mechanics, all that stuff. Like just look at the history of the world. Look at your life. Yeah. Right? Everything of importance happened through a black swan event. Absolutely. We did a podcast together. Now you live in Europe.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And looking back,
it's all those things. It's that shit. I have to completely remove myself from the things that I know, even to go to have you on the podcast the first time. Right? It's like, all right, I have this daily routine. This isn't it now. I got to make a contact. I got to fly across the country. I got to take this risk and do this thing. But you never thought for 1 second it would lead to, and that's everything in life. You met your wife. I know the story, but you had to end up working at a certain place to go see 300. To go see. I mean, like that is the story. Like when I met Carla, I'm going for a fucking seminar in San Diego. Yeah.
I don't expect to walk in and go, "Who's that?" Hi. Let me go tell her.
Julian gets in the bathroom, is like, clean his teeth.
Yeah. And I was like, I need to talk to her about something. Internal talk. Yes, so let's go. That's literally, I was like, I don't know what to say. Well, fuck, there's always internal talk. That works for everybody. That's literally like, I was like, what do I see in seminars? Right, personal stories and internal talk. Let's go there. And she followed me on Instagram, and there you go. By the way, like all the guys say, guys, no matter how good you look, you never get messages from women. I managed to get at least one or two. I'm just saying. Like, I'm not saying I'm better than you, but anyway. Yes. So they all hide behind empirical evidence and everything. Like, but you have to understand, you guys are the same people who 200 years ago took the Bible and says, yes, but there's the truth. It's the same mentality. The only thing that is true, like look at your life, look at human history, Black Swans.
Yeah.
Those are the events that shaped everything, that shaped science as well. That's my biggest problem when they say science empirical evidence. It only shows you what you know, because you're choosing the testing. Like, the more I read, and I'll go into this through the more I can tell you everything is measurement and interference. That's all there is in life. From quantum mechanical all the way to sociological events, the only thing is about measurement and interference. That's all there is. Like, we evolved toward more complexity, which creates the butterfly effect more and more, and then the pendulum starts to swing. It's all based on interference and measurement. So when they when they talk about empirical evidence, know that you test what you know. You are designing the test. You are using a specific tool to test. Those already change the experimentation. Yeah. And it seems that us humans, that would probably be a Carl Friston stuff, right? Is we cannot mentally go at Black Swans. Like, it's so hard. We can create
it's a
surprise
complete
thing.
unknown.
Yeah.
That's
and
true.
we are designed not to.
That's why those things do scare a person, like both in the small and the big.
Yeah.
You know, like if, you know, but I know, you know, working a day job, like working,
yep.
9 to 5 thing, and you can make good money and doing all those things. That was good, and it worked, and it paid. But even within that, the big steps, like, you know, buying another house and moving
yep.
here and doing this, and all of those things are steps outside of the box. They're uncomfortable. They make you lose sleep at night. You wonder if you're doing it right or wrong.
Yeah, but it's surprising.
Because you could stay in, stacked around with, covered in all the things you know.
But the event will happen.
Yeah, but if you look back, and like you said, if people look back on their lives, every single thing is in that moment where you step out into chaos just a fucking little bit.
Exactly, and that's back to what the mathematician says in Jurassic Park. I can't tell you when or where.
Yeah.
I just know the park's going to collapse. So what you do with Black Swan event is you can prepare for them, except you don't know when or where.
Yeah.
So, but the Black Swan event for me, one of the many, was a Barbershop podcast. Mm-hmm. I was getting ready for it. I didn't know when.
You didn't know what it was.
I didn't know who. I didn't know when. I didn't know where. But I knew at some point I get my one shot.
Yeah.
Right. And I was getting ready for that. That's the only thing you can do is get ready for the Black Swan events. When they happen, boom. But imagine what it requires mentally to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's actually super hard. But so that's the important stuff. So like the whole empirical evidence, they're trying to create the world into a deterministic place where you can just pile up one after the next and everything. And I understand, but that is where it comes from. But it's a weakness. It's you're just trying to be safe in a world that isn't.
Yeah.
Nothing in your life has worked like that. Some turn out well, others didn't. But each was a lesson that shaped you into who you are.
Yeah.
All you can do is getting ready for the Black Swans.
It reminds me, those that aren't, it just reminds me of someone with their fucking foot on the brakes the whole time.
Exactly.
You know? It's like,
but that's
can't help you.
Yeah, exactly. And so that goes back to, you know, people that are fat and everything, is they're not understanding what they're happening. When do they start losing weight? When they have a Black Swan event, which means they look in the mirror saying they're afraid of dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So all we can do, is prepare them for that moment, which means you can't make them lose weight gradually or stuff like that. There's a moment where the event, and it can be just looking in the mirror and seeing a double chin. It's a most random thing that you cannot predict, but we can prepare them for it. So when they have that moment, they say, okay, what do I do now to lose weight? And they truly mean it. Then we can have all the system there. But the idea of calories in versus calories out, saying you just count, is denying that. And that is a flaw. And that is materialism from the 18th century, literally, I kid you not. Like I looked it up. It's literally materialism in the mid 18th century. That's where most of the guys in the fitness industry are still stuck in that. Materialism is you increase like linear progression and stuff like that. Yeah, sure. And then, but how do you deal with all the shit around it? Remember, more variables you put in, the more the bell curve goes to shit. Basically, you see that in evolution all the time. Like alligators are basically all the same, right? They eat the same way, they do all the shit. Humans start to get to way more diversity.
Well, the amount of variables in a human being
versus an alligator.
Well, I just, you know what I mean. This in my life to your life to their life to their life.
But even
every day. But if I just have to say, do this and scale it up as we go. It's like,
but even afferent versus efferent, evolution is giving us the ventral vagus nerve. Every single layer adds another variable that exponentially makes the complexity of your life greater and greater and greater. And that's what evolution does. It's I have to go into math and complexity on that one, but basically that's what evolution does. Is it's introducing new variables continuously to make us more complex creatures so that we can be smarter and everything, but it also increases the fucking pendulum swing. That's why you see much more differences in humans than in other stuff. So as evolution goes through like that, you can start to see the thing going like this. Right? After that, the conversation is whether it's random or not.
Yeah.
Well, that's where Darwinism is, and that's where we're starting to understand it is not. So that brings to a cultural, and then we'll go into ETIT, but that brings to the cultural bias of the book I was reading. So we go through the whole thing of like, DNA. It seems like we said, like it's not random. Yeah. Random can be calculated, and it doesn't work. Nature is the luckiest thing ever. It doesn't work like that. Like nature goes by jumps on certain things that work too well to be random. So it seems that nature keeps track, right? So Paul Davies, all that stuff, imagine if there is such thing as a quantum computer, and then that's what life is. So there's 10 to the 80th particles in the atoms in the universe, right? So imagine a computer that would be the size, computer is a binary system, a 0 or a 1, right? So imagine a computer the size of the entire universe, right? It's 10 to the 80th combination, 0 or 1, and then we go like this, right? A 0 or 1 and stuff like that. A quantum computer would need to have 270 particles entangled to get 10 to the 81th combinations, which means it would take 270 particles to be entangled in a quantum computer to have the same power as a computer the size of the entire universe.
It's crazy.
You know particles are in the human body? Right, exactly. Right. So imagine if we are some kind of quantum computer. Imagine the power that thing would have. That means like a cell would be technically more powerful than most computer, than Alpha Zero, for example. It could do stuff that eclipse anything else, because the atom of a cell is way higher than 270, I can tell you that. So a cell alone would be a better computer than a computer that we would make the size of the universe. And that's basically what we see. So that's telling us like human race is barely starting, right? We don't get it. We don't understand. That's okay. There'll be a Black Swan. Might be the quantum computer, might be another form of computing that is not quantum-based, that is different. We just don't know what it is yet. It'll be a Black Swan that will change everything.
Well, that's what always happens, and especially in all this stuff. Like, people are always leaning against the gate, pushing and trying, and that's their work. You're doing it. But then every once in a while, someone comes and just blows the fucking doors open.
Exactly. And my guess is quantum computing will be that, or if not that, the next one. But there'll be a computing that will not be based on the binary system that we have now, because we're very simple, because again, we're barely starting, right? That will show, and because that computer will go through all the stuff. And one of the biggest cultural bias, that's the point I wanted to get to, they will remove this fucking religion. So, like we talked about the software. I'm reading a book by Jean Stone, right? And that guy is using that to say, see, God exists. I'm like, oh, you motherfucker, you have to go. The stench of religion is all through his book. He's not saying it out loud. But I'm Googling him, he's like, openly Christian. I'm like, there you go. You motherfucker, you have to go there. You don't need, just because absence of proof is not proof of absence.
Yeah.
Just because you don't understand how it works does not mean, you don't need to put God in there. It's God of the gaps. If I don't understand, there is a God. Yeah. No, then it reduces that's what fucking Isaac Newton said about then stuff also, we fully understand
but
now.
Then also you're putting something that you don't understand as an explanation to something you don't understand.
But how condescending and arrogant is that? Oh, I don't understand it, therefore there's God. Yeah. And why does conscious intelligence equal consciousness? Is a Alpha Zero intelligent?
Absolutely.
Right. Is it conscious? No. If there's a quantum computer, it does not need to be conscious in the way we are conscious in order to be far intelligent than we are. Alpha Zero just destroyed everybody at chess. Doesn't make it conscious, right? That idea of Abraham's God, like a conscious creature that makes decisions and predicts and everything, and you put that into any single gap because you don't get it, I find that so fucking arrogant. So I'm reading the book, getting more pissed page 6 on, because I smell it from the beginning, and I'm like, And he was Explorers of the Invisible. I'll do a peer review on this because it's very interesting stuff on math and things like this. Remember Ramanujan? I talk about it all the time, the Indian guy.
Yes.
They talk about him in Good Will Hunting, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff he was intuition based, which means at the time, especially because he was Indian, there was some racism in that, let's be honest. But he come up and he produced like 3,000 theorems, I think. By the way, less than 100 were wrong. So he was 99.98% correct. Is that crazy? But some of it, he actually showed an equation that allowed basically to calculate pi at 8 more decimals that they were able to at the time. Right? So for mathematicians, it's a big deal, trust me. And he come up, but he has numbers like 2103, whatever. No, not because it was a prime number. It's 2104, whatever the fuck it was. Number like that, and they asked him, and he couldn't prove how he got to it. Because for him, he said, no, there's a Indian goddess, forgot the name, that gave him all that in the stuff. And so he used that to say, see, God exists. No, what if? But there was a very interesting part about math. How long are we in?
I'm thinking about. It's hard. This goes on time signature.
Yeah.
So I think we're like, I don't know, 40 minutes in, 35 minutes in.
Then I'll be afternoon. Right. So there was because it's very, in a way, I think all this is very important, and I'm going to keep pushing because I think just like I believe people need to understand what movement is to squat better. I believe coaches need to understand the fallacies of human logic in order to become smarter and to become better humans and better coaches and everything. And right now, I feel they're being lied to on a consistent basis by that whole empirical evidence bullshit. It is bullshit, not the idea of it. What we're doing with it right now, especially in the fitness industry, where empirical evidence is used on a daily basis in order to sell you shit. Empirical evidence showed that smoking isn't harmful to you, or lead paint, or asbestos.
4 out of 5 doctors smoke Kent cigarettes.
Yeah. By the way, the food pyramid, how's that going? Those were all empirical evidence based.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It can be manipulated way too easy. So I want people to understand how logic works. For that, you need to integrate from many different levels. But understand that whenever someone gives you the science to prove that they're right, they're bullshitting you. It's like the stock trader that tells you like I have a way to give you 5% every year and all that stuff, except a recession happens every 8 years.
So in the end, it all comes out in the wash.
No, but okay, so a stock trader is going to basically give you a 20-year plan without integrating recession in it.
Yep.
Even though if you look at statistics, 3 of them will happen in the next 20 years, at least 2 for sure,
Yep.
Probably 3. So you don't integrate that into the way you're putting money into your house, or your stock trader is not taking that into account. How the fuck does that work?
Just act surprised.
All right, so but we're doing that in the fitness industry all the time.
Yeah.
6 weeks plan, 12 weeks plan, year long, and everything.
They didn't get any results. Well, you did it wrong.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's you.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's because he was bullshitting you to start with. So that's a mathematical. You were going to say something.
I was going to say like those because. When we talk about coaches needing to kind of fix that mindset a little bit, is we also have to, because as a coach, your clients have they're getting the same shit stuffed in their head too, often, which means as a coach, you got to figure out how to think outside that box, and then you got to figure out how to teach outside that box, and you have to break the convention with all of those people too, and that's hard because you have to.
It's very hard.
Not only because in the beginning you're not just educating, you almost have to convince for a while, which is tough.
Yeah, but that means like to be a better coach, you're gonna have to be smarter.
Yeah.
It's not enough that you know movement. You're gonna have to be smarter, and you're gonna have to be smarter than your clients and smarter than the fucking internet website they get their news from, who is selling them something, betting on that human flaw, that fucking blind spot, that tell them that what you have to do is get better a little bit every day. They all live in mediocristan, where they're like, well, yesterday is like today is a little bit like tomorrow, we just make small progress moving forward, and that's, even though nothing in life works like that.
Yeah.
We are being sold this on a regular basis by everybody, and nowhere else like in the fitness industry. And it's complete bullshit.
So let me play devil's advocate here. So in a situation like this, we talk about still needing to be consistent in your training and deliberate in your training, right? And that does need to be a slow progression often, right? But how does one work that into training in which you're trying to experiment and try new enough things to try to have how does one seek a breakthrough without like jumping off a fucking edge all the time?
I agree, and I can tell you exactly how. This is Nassim Taleb did it because he was also running a hedge fund, and he proved it successfully. 90% of your stuff goes into bonds, treasury bonds.
Safe.
Yeah. Especially American ones, about as safe as you get
for now.
Until the health crisis. By the way, you all think the opioid crisis is bad. Wait until the health crisis truly hits.
Until it peaks.
Like this will bring down the empire.
Yeah.
Before anything else, it'll be the healthcare.
Conspiracy Tyler says there will be 50 independent countries sometime in the next 100 years there.
Which every state having his own law on healthcare, so they're going to put all the sick people in one state and just nuke it. Yeah, there you go. That's how to solve the problem. So he did it through stock market. So you put 90% of what you have in something super safe, right? That you know, so that's your periodization and all that stuff, linear progression. Then you're going to take 1% and put it in of your portfolio and put it in 10 different companies, startups, completely different, not in the same field, right?
Yeah.
Tack. And knowing that 9 will fail.
Yeah.
1 will get you a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
And so the 90% means you're not getting broke, and that one will make you rich.
Yeah.
So that's how you do it for training. Most of your stuff is what you're doing is you're preparing for the Black Swan.
Yeah.
For that one, you're preparing for two sides. That one exercise where you go, motherfucker, everything gives me 5% increase per year. This one gives me 20. Dude, you finally nailed it.
Yeah.
Right? We all have that. For me, it's carries.
Yeah.
At the carries, I get stronger.
Yeah.
And suddenly I don't have to do shit. I barely have to. Like, let's say I want to work on my squat. Oh, motherfucker. Is that a 5% yield result, right? That's the treasury bond for me. Actually, it's not in that sense, but it's such a low rendition. So that tells you what? Like, you want to get better at squatting, you're going to have to find that one exercise that gets you better at squatting. So you go back into if the 90% gives you 15% interest a year, you're like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do that, right? So you have your great exercises.
So you can, at that point, you're consistent enough to where you can afford to have some of your training resources occasionally fall flat.
Some of them will. So what you do is you have the stuff that works for you. If you haven't, then you go back to basic bodybuilding and then you look powerlifting. And then as you find the good exercises, you put it into your treasury bond. So now the yield result of your treasury bond goes up. So now it's not 1% a year, it's 10% a year out of that. Fuck yeah, right? Yeah. But you know what? This is my squat. It's just not fucking going up. I still haven't found it. All right, 10 exercises, right, of the squat. And then again, remember I say 300 researchers for 1 year of 6 group of 5 for 3 years. That's the thing. Is now we're gonna take a year or 2 years even, and bet on those 10 exercises that one of them will be the fucking one, right?
Unlock
and if it's not,
and
then that means like a conjugate system, right? And then I try all those exercises for like 2 years, and one of them suddenly, because it's not just exercise, it's the way you do it. Is it lightweight, heavyweight, bands? Do
you like it? You know, like,
or do you need to suck it up for 6 months first? So you're gonna have to do all that, and guess what? 90% is gonna fail. Like no, which is where, by the way, people quit. So because they look not at the yield result, they use at the basically failure rate. That's why people, instead of going like, making progress a little bit, or no progress, how many times did we see that? People 3 years later exactly in the same place. But they're so fucking afraid of failing that they're willing to accept a 0.5 yield result, which goes against inflation, so you're still losing money.
Which to me is failing.
That still goes, that's the same thing. Money or training in that case is exactly the same. If you're training 2 hours a day to stay in the same place, you're failing. You're going backwards.
That's the thing I always have to explain to people.
You're getting backwards.
It's like, there's going to be an age at some point where you're maybe not going to be able to get stronger. That doesn't mean you can get better. 75 years old, you might not be stronger at 85. Probably not.
No, but you can still move.
But you can still move. But I think if you are still in a situation in which you can be improving, you fucking owe it to yourself if you're putting in the work to do it in a way that's going to give you progress. Because Jesus Christ, what are you fucking doing the work for?
Exactly. But
then you're just going to hate
it's the same thing for money. Wait, if you get a 0% return on your money, or even like 1%, but inflation is 3%, I mean, you're losing money every month. So it's the same thing for training. We should call it Black Swan training. So the idea is all the good exercises are going to go in the treasury bonds because you're going to keep them, but then you have those 10 running. And it's for 2 years, not for 6 weeks. Right? Treasury bond, you know exactly 6 weeks from now what you're going to do because you know that and it's safe.
Yeah.
But the second that yield, you want to increase that yield, they have to go back here. You have 10, and then what you do is you prepare for the Black Swan event. One of them, and then your squat starts to go up. So you wait for that. You keep testing until there's one. You keep long enough, you just suck it up, get some balls, grow some balls, and understand that failure is inevitable on some of them, but one of them will yield a result that will eclipse everything else and maybe make it worse the time. Yeah. And then once you have that, you integrate it and then we move forward. That's how you train, basically. You have to prepare for the Black Swan events or losing fat, which isn't what I did with nutrition. I was like, I kept looking, going, nah. And then suddenly I'm like, hey. But it started working, by the way, when I trusted myself instead of others.
Yeah.
And then I was like, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Right? I remember like a year ago, I was like, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Like, I can't find what works.
When you were almost fed up with everything, from the little bits of experimenting you had done with all the other stuff, from the food quality in one place versus another, at some point you had to boil it all the way down to...
Right, because I was putting it into a 1% yield result.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck that. That's way too much effort for me getting out of it. I'm a fairly good athlete. My nervous system works well. There's no way I can do better. So I was like, fuck it. So I took all my chips, most of them, put them in there, and like, let's see what the Black Swan is. And then after that, I directed. So it's not just, again, like going back to randomness, it's not randomness, because I had an idea, and I'm like, I'm going to put it here in those different startups, but with that all the startups that look good.
Yeah.
Like that one, you probably should put one. No, and you put one there going like, let's see, but it's worth trying. And then when it fails, you go like, kinda. But again, you never know, right? So you gauge also those 10, you don't go toward the stupidest shit ever. Even though once in a while you should have one that is really fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like that really fucking dumb idea. And don't get me wrong, 100 of them will fail. But there'll be one where you go, fuck yeah. Well, okay. Talking to Kyla.
Yeah.
Right? She's a coach in San Diego. I live in Holland. I'm like, yeah. So let me guess. You're going to walk up to her, say hi with your French accent, which I learned did not work on her. I was like, what do you, it's my best weapon. I'm so offended by that women all the time. Anyway, and I'm like, so you're going to tell her, hey, I live in Europe. Why don't you come live with me? We never met, but I can tell you right now, we're going to spend a lot of time together. Yeah. So why don't you just quit everything and come to Holland? Right. That's that really stupid idea where 99 out of 100%, she laughs in your face and makes fun of you to all the coaches and invictors.
Yep.
And everybody looks at you going, what's wrong with you? Every time you show up there.
That's
right?
No risk, right?
It could have happened that way. Let's put it this way, right? Or you try that really fucking stupid idea because you figure out there's a Black Swan sooner or later showing up, and suddenly she moved to Holland and you're getting married.
Yeah.
Training is the same.
Yeah.
It's the same shit, right? So nutrition, I just put it out there and I was like, those are ideas that should work. Some of them, no, because I didn't. And then again, that's exactly what we talked about. Then some of the stuff makes sense. And as I got into it, then the rest started to develop. Now there were Black Swans upon Black Swans, upon Black Swans, upon Black Swans. That's actually the complexity. There's a name for that in math as well. Well, like you need a reaction to 1 to get to 2, reaction to 2 gets you to 3, reaction to 3 gets you to 4, reaction to 4 raises 1.
Yeah. So you must get all the way.
And to get 2 to 3, and then you get 3, and then 4 pushes 1, but you're going to get 1 to 2 to 1. It tack, and then it comes back like this, right? So you find one Black Swan, and that leads to a new path. That's like the many worlds in quantum mechanics, and then it pushes you forward, and pushes you forward, and pushes you forward, until you finally find that exercise with that particular weight, with that bands or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Like you rest 1 day, 3 days, every day, a little bit, and then eventually you start, and every time you get that stuff, you put it into the secure bonds. But you prepare for the Black Swan always, because it will happen. And the Black Swan can be positive or negative. By the way, you have to prepare for, in nutrition, what does that mean? What if I go to a wedding and I fucking drink for 3 days? What if I go to Brussels and I have 15 truffles?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were not fully ready for that one either. By the way.
And your system and your nutritional system, like you said, like the ecosystem you built for yourself, has to be able to absorb a situation like that, because that's where people fuck up. Is they have this brilliant fucking plan,
and then they quit.
And they go to a wedding and they cut loose, and then they don't know how to come back, and they guilt and everything.
You told me that way back in the day when you said, because you like to drink more often than I do, in larger quantities. And what did you say? You say like, I need to find myself a basic day that I can go back to every time I fuck up.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, for me, it's very easy for me because it's basically some fat in the morning and a whole day fast that I don't eat until it's almost dark that next day. I'm not hungry. I don't, and anything else that I put in my body that I want, it's never good. It's like, oh, I'll just eat some fucking pizza and go back. It's like never ever is what I'm craving what I need. By the time I eat a good dinner with meat and vegetables that night and get hydrated, I'm fucking fine the next day. And I feel good that night even, but then I'm back in the loop.
So you prepared for a Black Swan event.
Yeah.
Shit, like looking back, you go like, but at the time you're like, and then there will be some wedding, you see it coming, but there will be other stuff like that. Like again, you meet the woman of your dreams and she wants to have dessert.
You're gonna eat dessert.
Yes. And you're gonna drink too, motherfucker. Like if you say I don't have dessert, don't you dare. All right. So, but you have to prepare for those. Like so, you know what I mean. So now you had your system the day after. Which, by the way, we found exactly the same for everyone. Like you see on the auto-regulation nutrition, same thing. Fats in the morning, fast all day, dinner. Some people it takes them 4 days in a row.
Really?
All right. They got better by the third, awesome by the fourth.
Yeah.
So no, that's preparing for a Black Swan event. Sometimes it takes you 4 days to recover for one night of.
And for me, any training after that day is, well, we'll do nothing, basically no training. If I'm going to do any training, it's a session that has no purpose other than to move and sweat, meaning I don't go in expecting to perform because I know better.
You know what I told them? I told them to go either on a bicycle or a 2-hour walk or stuff like that, only nasal breathing.
Yeah.
Find your flow. Don't do anything that where you go like, I don't want to be here. So there can be no flight whatsoever because that's what you're going to spend the next 3 days in because of the sugar and all that shit. So you go for a 2-hour bicycle ride, 2-hour walk, all nasal breathing, tape your mouth if you have to, but don't do anything that you don't want to do. And no data, no intent in mind, nothing, just move, get the flow back, right? And you'll see within 30 minutes, maybe not day one, but then eventually you go like, okay, I'm a bit better, I'm starting to get my brain back. And by day 3, day 4, we're going somewhere.
Speaking of going somewhere, we're not going to do torque on this episode.
No, but we'll do this afternoon.
We'll do it this afternoon.
Because I'm not done.
I know. That's what I knew. I was like, we ain't making it back to this. Or we're not going to do that topic a good service if we don't do it in 10 minutes. So.
No, but I'm trying to save coaches out there. Just let me do things for my people.
Guys, I'm just trying to make a podcast cohesive. Help me out here.
What do you mean? It's totally cohesive. It's just my way. It's a Black Swan. And so human logic. What's the problem with human logic? There's something called the Gödel theorem.
Okay, I've not heard it.
Gödel theorem. No. 1930, Vienna.
Okay.
Funny, huh? Which basically changed the way it's pure mathematical. I'm going to use an analogy because I can't even describe it, but it had to do with logical fallacies, if you want. So analogy is simple. I have 2 bins, Gödel's theorem. It's called incomplete theorems. Anyway, 2 bins.
Okay.
One bin, I put the book that reference themselves.
The what?
The books that reference themselves.
Okay.
Books that talks about themselves.
Okay.
Right. The other bin is I put the books that don't talk about themselves.
Okay.
Right. So I have 2 bins. To be complete, I need to put in that bin, I need to put the title of that of each book in that one, and then the title of that book in that one. So that's the bin that has the books that don't refer to themselves.
Okay.
Right. So to be complete, I'm writing on it that the book does not refer to itself. But by doing that, it refers to itself.
By its ability, by the fact that it is not.
So that's an analogy to explain what, in a mathematical term,
like.
So what does that mean? That means that the only way I make the system coherent is by not putting the title on the book. Right. But if I do that, the system is not complete.
Yeah.
If I make the system complete, then it's not coherent.
Yeah.
So human logic works
because
like
of
that.
your interference in it by...
Interference, always. Measurement.
Okay.
That's the key. Just like wave and particle, it's the same idea. Measurement, interference, basically creates a low, or like, almost like a lower dimension. So the idea is like the wave particle is that big thing everywhere.
Yeah.
And by interfering with it, which measurement is always interference. Interference is not always measurement, but anyway, it basically collapses the wave function. So you go from a larger to, it's not a dimension, but for the sake of argument, different semantics from physics. You go from a larger dimension to a smaller dimension. So by causing an interference, I create either a system that is incoherent. So here comes human logic where you're either coherent or you're complete, but you can't do both. The only way you can see both is if you are on a level higher.
Yeah.
Then I can look at it and figure it out. But if I'm within the system, I cannot be coherent and complete at the same time. And that's the fallacy of science because of human logic.
Yeah.
It requires you to remove yourself at a higher level to make this coherent and complete. From the system, it's impossible.
Yeah.
So, very interestingly, that leads you to see that the only way to be at a higher level is mathematics. Mathematics is the only plane of existence that is one existence, one dimension,
One
what you want to call
layer,
it,
yeah.
higher. So that's what they say, mathematics is a language of God.
Yeah.
They don't mean God's of Abraham. They means it's a higher dimension where
But you
the
can't
shit
see it.
happens, where
Everything
the
still is,
software lives. The software lives in the same plane that mathematics allows us to access. So that's why I go back to quantum computer. What if the quantum computer lives in that fucking space, which on this space we can't, because basically we have interfered. We have the interference that we're creating puts us in a lower dimension where we can do that shit, just like the wave function. But it seems that the software lives in a higher plane of existence. Then that would explain Ramanujan that said he got his intuition from the Indian goddess that told him what to do, because his computer was superior to ours. His intuition lives in that plane of existence, but that plane of existence can make us do shit. But since we're here, we can't see that. Just like if you're in 2 dimensions, you can't see 3 dimensions. If this is all there is, like this is flat, there's no, and you live on that, you can't see us.
Yeah.
Because to you, there is no 3rd dimension where we live.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same idea, like the 4th dimension, otherwise you're stuck, you're already behind. You know what I mean? Like, so you cannot see something that is 1 dimension higher than you. And it seems that the software lives in the high, whatever the fuck that is accessed through mathematics.
How do we not fuck all that up and use it, considering that we can't?
Exactly. But that's where we are, right?
But that is where we are. Yeah.
That is where we are. And so that's where they say, oh, this is God. No, this is a higher plane of existence. This is like a dimension, extra dimension where the software lives.
And I think by saying that too, it's like, well, if we're just going to lean on that, on the you just saying it's God thing now, we're never going to fucking find out.
Exactly.
Like, can we just keep looking?
What matters for me, for coaches out there, it means that you cannot be coherent and complete. Right? So the whole programming for a year and everything, it is incoherent. It is complete, but it is incoherent.
Yeah.
Right? And that means you are not planning for the Black Swan event. So if you plan for a Black Swan event, you're going to have to leave open some uncertainty. So that's why they say if it's not measured, it doesn't exist. It's complete bullshit, because the second theorem of Gödel shows you that some truth cannot be proven.
Yeah.
Like, truth is larger than probability. So some truth cannot be proven, and that's a mathematical fact because of that, right? So because a system, for example, it can either be coherent or complete, which means within that system, if you something built in that system cannot prove itself because of the fallacy of being built within a system that is never, you know what I mean? So it creates its own loop. So we are stuck in our own loop where we are either coherent or...
So we're measuring all these things constantly and trying to draw conclusions to them.
Yes.
But we're having such an impact on them by not considering our own bias.
Exactly.
Like, not just in a test or anything like that, but I mean in general. In
general, in everything we do.
As in existence.
So you know what came out of that theorem? AI.
Okay.
Because that's how we're trying to create AIs. But that's why AI would have a problem, is because if you create an AI to fix all flaws, right? At some point, he's going to think he's a messiah, because it's a perfect machine that runs on a machine created imperfectly by imperfect people. So he cannot see the truth of his own condition.
Yeah.
So therefore, he thinks he's God.
Yeah.
And so that's where our religion comes from, is that because we cannot be coherent and complete, whenever we access that, it has to be something divine, because this makes us perfect in a system that was created imperfectly. So the only way to make a system imperfect is the influence from an outside force. Here comes God.
Yeah.
Right. Except what we're finding out more and more is it doesn't have to be God. It just has to be a form of computing higher than ours.
Yeah.
An extra dimension. And that's what math is giving us access to. Whatever the fuck that plane is. No idea. I'm not claiming I know. No one knows. But that's the demon in the machine. That's fundamentally the stuff. It's like, what is a demon, Maxwell's demon? It's some kind of
it's like basically a layer of intent to the whole thing.
Exactly.
Basically.
But he lives not in that world.
Correct.
Because within that
it had to be introduced to it.
Right. So it's one dimension higher than the world of molecules is in. Otherwise, he's part of the system and cannot decide where everybody goes. So he has to be outside of the system.
It's just going to be bouncing around with
exactly.
the rest.
So exactly. Yeah. But him, he has intent. Why? Because he's one plane higher. And so one plane higher allows you. That's what Maxwell Demon is.
Yeah.
And so that's where the information comes in. But one plane higher means more completion. So what does math works? Because there's no interference in math. Because it's all theoretical. So that's all way to that plane. So that's why I'm saying the Black Swan, the next bigger, not the next one, but there will be a Black Swan at some point toward quantum computing or whatever computing it is there that will suddenly access that directly. And then we'll know so much more.
Yeah.
Right. But so that shows you that as a human, you cannot be coherent and complete. So you do your programming in the whole 6 and 12 weeks.
Yeah.
By definition, you're being complete, you're incoherent. So that whole year-long stuff is a structure, is a guideline.
Yeah.
It is not to be written. You can't write a year of programming. You can't write 12 weeks of programming. You have to count the Black Swan in. Always. Like you have to take for that. So whenever clients fail, when they get positive and negative, you find a new stuff that works, stop everything, recompose, reset everything, reset every single time. Every time there's a Black Swan, you reset. Yeah. And you see what you keep in the treasury bonds and then what you put
Because
out.
that should be a paradigm shifting moment if you've done it right.
That's what the Black Swan is.
Because it really should be a situation that if you have done it right, it should change your understanding of things.
And exactly. So
meaning then you should look at everything else and say, okay, now that I know this, now we go this way.
How many times did you get epiphanies and not reset the system? You discarded the Black Swan. You know it was a Black Swan event. Yeah. You had it, you go like, yes. And instead of going like, let me go celebrate, take 2 days off, clear my head, and then figure out now what goes in the treasury bond. Like you have to reset.
Yeah.
Like, and then by the way, you have to reset all of those startups. Because now, and instead of that, you kept going exactly the fucking same way. So now you're incoherent.
Yeah.
Because you thought you could be complete. I got it now.
A wasted opportunity.
Oh. Yeah. Of the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
Which is the Black Swan event. The other shit, that programming, you know what the goal of this programming is? To lead you to a positive Black Swan event.
Yeah.
That's it. Hopefully not negative. Negative one means you fucked up. Right? So your job as a coach is to understand that you're programming to get ready for a Black Swan event. Where, when, who, don't know. But your job is to get ready for that. So me, I spent 5 years getting ready for the Barbershop podcast. I was like, when it happens, when my moment happens, and again, didn't know who he was, didn't know when, didn't know where. I kind of figured it was Barbershop because it was #1 podcast. Like one day I'll get on it. But what do I say then? And I spent years going like, I better have something to say. So, writing on the chalkboard and going like, my pyramids and my stuff because it looks cool. And I mean, it allows me. And then suddenly, when I know 8 weeks before, I'm like, shit, like it's coming. So now I have the Charles Munger, PDF going like, I need to have my worldly wisdom, points of worldly wisdom. And so I prepare for the Black Swan. But after that, it's like, and then what you do, you reset.
Yeah.
Because the day before, the day after. Just like when you meet your wife, just like there's a day before, the day after. So imagine if you meet your wife and your life stays exactly the same after that.
Yeah.
Fuck, no, it doesn't. Not if it's going to be your wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's those events, really there's before and after. You move to new, like those are major events. Yeah. Imagine if you try to live your life exactly the same way, even though a major moment happened.
Well, and I always looked at it this way too, and like in building kind of your life in that way is what I often did is it was like, well, there are things that I have to keep pushing forward, right? There's pieces that got to move forward. So similar to your 90% in your training, for me, it was work and bills and making sure we had some security and all those things. But I knew the whole time that whatever my 90% is right now is only there to get me into a position to where I can jump and do what I wanted. But I didn't know what I wanted either.
But that's not where you make your money. You make your money on the 10 out there. In one of them,
correct.
You'll break the bank on one of them. You just don't know when and where.
So for me, it was work and consistency and all those things. But man, that can really lull a person to sleep too.
That's the
you get real comfortable in mindless training and go and do your job.
Because that's not where progress is.
Yeah.
Progress is not there. Progress is a Black Swan.
Yeah.
Right? Your 90% is consistency so you can pay bills.
Yeah. And so for me it was it started with Massonomics and the other thing, but then it goes into it's like, well, I think we should open a CrossFit gym. And it's like, but
it's a major
for
event.
me, once that thing hits in my brain, I'm fucked. If I get this idea, it's over. And this is the way I do it with all of it, because shit, it's in there. And now I'm screwed because I can either figure out what's at the other end of that process or sit on my heels and wonder. And I don't do wonder.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't do wonder. So I just do it.
And then it led to the next Black Swan.
Yeah.
And then the next Black Swan. And then now who knows?
Yeah.
But you got ready for it.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people all the time. It's like, listen, this next thing might not be your thing. My boss, when I quit my day job, that's the first thing he told me. He said, this thing, I hope it works for you. But he said, it's probably your next thing or your next thing that's going to be the exciting one. And he got it. He gets it.
He gets it. But it's a Black Swan event. It's one of those 10.
Yeah.
But by the way, maybe it's not this 10, but it's one of them who's going to lead to that. Going back to 2 to 3 to 4. One of these 10 will lead to another 10. That one of them will be the shit, and from there there'll be 3 more that lead you to the promised land, basically. But that's how it works for training as well. It's like your progress is not in your 90%. That's just so you prepare for the Black Swan event. That your body does not goes to shit, and then it keeps you consistent, and it teaches you gym matters and all that stuff, so that when the Black Swans happen, you can integrate it into this and not. But the problem is most people pretend it didn't happen. Yeah, epiphany, like.
They pretend it didn't happen, or they don't even look.
I think it's Einstein who said there's 2 ways to live in this world. You can live like every day is a miracle, like everything is a miracle, or you can live like nothing is a miracle. People have Black Swan event, they go like, yeah, whatever, that's not real life. Real life is the 90% stuff. I'm like, that is not true. That is literally not how life works. Look at history, look at your life. That is not true.
Yeah.
That is not true. That is absolutely not true.
And I think in life generally, it's getting preachy, but like in life generally, like the things that you do within the 90%, the most basic things, those are the things that usually have you contributing to some sort of larger societal function, where it's like that's the matrix. They're taking your money, you're watching your TV, you're paying you're borrowing money for your car, and you're borrowing money for your house, and you're paying your taxes, and you're and you want a new TV, and then you want a bigger one next year, and you just that's this like slow, gradually, never getting too far out of your comfort zone thing.
And society goes to Black Swan events, but there's that 90%. The problem is, as you say, is getting dull into it.
Yeah.
Is getting that grind into it, not seeking. It's not that you seek the Black Swan, because again, you don't know where it comes from, but you just know one will be coming. Yeah. So you prepare for that, and you kind of direct the flow. So it'll be the same thing for training. Again, your 90% inconsistency, but understand that is not where your progress is.
Yeah.
Because like you can't even take a week off after a while. If you're there, which I just did, I was so by day 3 I was like, what am I doing? And now I'm like, that was a good week. But I don't remember last time I did it. Like, cause you start to get stuck. It's like, I gotta train no matter what. I mean, no, not if you're training. It doesn't work like that.
This is a funny thing. Now that you mention it, I didn't think about it until now. Was though you didn't train for a week. You're on vacation for a week. I won't get into details, but I was getting messages from Julie and Kayla both. Like, we have like 5 to 10 really good business planning, progress, StrongFit, future ideas just rolling out of you because you weren't busy doing other things. You weren't rushing to train, you weren't trying to fit it in.
I walked around the Palma de Mallorca, which is super old city and everything. We walked around, saw the churches and everything, and it's very Spanish. It's Franciscan, so it's very austere, like super strict and everything. But it's gorgeous. One of the most conserved city I've ever seen. Like I did not know that.
It's just perfectly
like there's stuff from like fucking 900 years ago.
Really?
Still there. Like, but in people's buildings. Like you walk around and you go, that wall
has been there for historically preserved thing. It's just some guy's house.
Yeah. You walk and you go like, that wall has been there for a while. You look inside and you see the Moors. Like Ottoman Empire, so darker people, Muslim.
Yeah.
Right. I say darker because remember Othello? In Othello, Shakespeare.
I don't remember it much.
Okay, Iago, Othello. Anyway, he's a Moor.
That was a school thing, and I didn't really do school.
He's a I'm sure they have a Disney movie on it.
Is there?
Actually, no. It's funny because Iago is the parrot in Aladdin. Yeah, that's where it comes from, because Iago was the counselor of Othello. And he's an evil guy where gives up on life and turns out to be the biggest cunt ever. But it's just out of like the whole thing is like, yeah, he reaches evil and goes like, yeah, fuck it. Shakespeare, everything is such dramatic in a negative way. Like at some point, I'm like, either way, I'm like, guys, come on. Anyway, but one of the problem Othello faces is that he's black. He's not black. He's darker skin because he's Moor, and the Moor were Muslim, darker skin color, come in and then they conquered Spain and everything. So in Mallorca, they stay for about 300 years, from 900 to 1200-ish. You still see some of the stuff influenced from that period. Really? And then before that was a huge Roman city, humongous. It was connected to Rome because they have salt mine and olive tree. So they would do olive oil and they have salt mines and everything, but it was also because of the port and everything. It was a humongous city connected directly to Rome. So it was a big bastion of the Roman Empire. So up until 900, it was all Roman. So you see that everywhere. And then Spain, and then you see that influence after that. And it's very, very well conserved. So I walked around in that for like a week straight. And of course, so that means like I can look around and be like, oh, this is amazing. So the rest of my brain goes, and so that's where the ideas came up basically.
Nice.
From. So it was so cool. So I tried stuff with the Harmony Medical from there. So I got new stuff for the diet too, like a bit more subtle, maybe variations or stuff like that. Yeah. And are we talking about it? Like the big news that came out of it already?
Let's not yet. Okay. Not till after Wednesday.
All right. So we have, well, no, that one, the bigger one. Where
Which
we're going
bigger one?
Next year.
Let's wait till after Wednesday.
Let's wait till after Wednesday.
My perspective will be clearer then.
Okay,
I'll like that conversation better then.
Okay, so on the you'll see that podcast in a few weeks.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
For sure.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. So let's wrap this one up and then we'll go with
so this was the Black Swan episode.
Yes, this was the ET episode that just never happened.
It's the perfect definition of the Black Swan. We walked in thinking we were going to do some ET things, ET and IT things.
I promise I will.
Just not today.
I said today. Well, today because we're doing this afternoon. Yep. So there you go.
So, we got to get off this roof before it gets too hot.
Yep.
So
fuck yeah, I'm sweating.
StrongFitEquipment.com, StrongFitEquipment.eu, StrongFit1 on Instagram, Tyler F. and Stone on Instagram,
JuliansCorner.com,
JuliansCorner.com, UK32 on Instagram, Richard's Rare Barracuda on Instagram. His gorgeous white teeth and hair is on point. Hadn't seen him in a while.
Nice and tan.
He walks around the corner at the office this morning. I'm like, he's like, ding, because he's so tan now.
He's so tan,
he's just teeth from 50 meters away.
Exactly.
So.
And Mantra Fitness for the
and Manta Fitness in Australia, if you're in Australia.
By the way, we have ropes and all that stuff on the website.
Yes, StrongFitEquipment.eu, well, and in the States, correct. But, but Europe, we have a whole stash of ropes out at the office. So you need pulling ropes, that's the place to be.
We have them?
Yep.
30 meters. How about 35 meters. 100 feet.
I didn't look. 100 feet, so
33 meters. Yeah, 30 meters-ish.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's the one I bought too.
33 meters?
I bought the 100-foot one. And
that's what I had at my gym.
That's the one you want.
It's that. Yeah. 100 feet, like we get it's 1.5 inches, I think, diameter. That's the one I train on for like fucking, I don't know, 4 years straight. Yeah. 100 feet is great.
We had ours, I think it was 2 years of almost daily use out in like fucking gravel alley. Ours. And they hold
it's
up
fully
fine,
Dacron.
So,
it can get wet. It doesn't give you any shrapnel.
like the Manila ropes.
Exactly, like the Manila rope does. And it takes a beating even on the floor because it was used every day at my gym too. Yeah. It never wore that. It took like years to wear down.
Yeah. So snatch them up out of the office. That's what we need. So, all right, thanks a lot, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.